mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. How do we like our martial arts? We like them romantic. Happy Valentine's Day, guys.
Oh, the swerve. I was ready. I mean, you know what? You're right. We do like them romantic, Casey, because I can think of very, very few places as romantic as the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. That is where dreams go to thrive. That is where you see happy couples time in and time out. Cupid, that's where he lives, in the Apex. And that's where we're going to be this Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, for UFC Vegas 102. Hello there. I am Jed Meshew of MMAfighting.com. You see the name right there. Casey, you could just always put up my BTL record too, and then people would know that I'm the GOAT at BTL. But anyway, we got some stuff to talk about this weekend because fights are happening. Fresh off the heels of UFC 312, we head back to the world's most famous Apex for a middleweight matchup between Gregory Rodrigues and Jared Cannonier, and we're going to talk all about that, the rest of the fight, and whatever y'all want to talk about. But joining me to do such things, you've heard Casey Leiden. But of course, joining me, my favorite guy at MMAfighting.com. Not my best friend, apparently, because he's already spoken for, but he's your best friend, and he is the king in the north, Alexander K. Lee, AK. How are we doing this morning?
I want to talk about MMA, Jed. I don't know if you, I like MMA. I want to talk about MMA. I was told we talk about some MMA in this show, so I'm really looking forward to it. UFC Vegas 102, back at the Apex. Jared Cannonier. Hold on. Gregory Rodrigues. It took me a second. Calvin Cater, Yusuf Salah. It's a great matchup. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'm being weirdly facetious and sarcastic, but not a terrible fight night card. I don't feel it's a bad fight night card at all. I think I was saying, was I on another show this week, or I can't remember who I was talking to. I was talking to you guys, just saying, like, if you were able to take some of the fights from this event and the Saudi Arabia event, and you put these as like the undercard of UFC 312, you would have had like a spectacular card. But we can't do that these days because we have like 45, 46 cards a year. So there's bits and pieces of a good card here. There's bits and pieces of a good card in Saudi Arabia. We had that quality, top two fights in 312. But this is what we have, and it's not a bad watch. 4 p.m. ET. So I mean, got a little bit of an earlier start time too. Could be a good time.
Love an earlier start time. Always a big, particularly for us East Coasters, that's a huge selling point for a card like this. As you can see over my shoulder, I have given this fight night 4 fights above replacement tussles. Not a terrible Apex score, not awful, but we do have a change of the, I don't know, the whatever the hell, a change of the fight card, because I won't say moments ago, but roughly an hour ago or so, we dropped one more fight. UFC Seattle has lost a whole ton of action this week, but UFC Vegas 102 lost a fight this morning, apparently immediately after Jared Gordon weighed in. That fight
I knew that was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen.
Course
at least once that was going to happen.
Of course. So we did lose a Jared on this card, not the main event. Jared Gordon, now his fight with Masarjaban Ruzabayev. I very much apologize if I butchered that, which I probably did. AK, I believe you were watching this live as it happened. Walk us through what exactly occurred, because Gordon made weight, did he not?
Yeah, it was a bit funny. I have to think Gordon knew. I don't know if he was completely like surprised. I think he had stepped off the scale, and then they made the announcement, so we didn't get to see like a live reaction from Jared. My understanding would be weighs in, hopefully gets paid. Maybe not his full show money, but I guess depends situation. Hopefully gets paid something for weighing in. And the situation with Ruzabov, according to my best friend Mike Heck, who spoke to a UFC official, an illness. That is all we know. An illness. Maybe weight cut related, maybe not. Could be something completely unrelated. He was stepping in on about 4 or 5 days notice, so it's not all that surprising that some sort of hiccup may have happened. So yeah, we're down from 13 fights to 12. Jared Gordon's going to have to wait, unfortunately, to fight again. Hopefully they can find a booking for him somewhere in the next 6 weeks. Right? I think we've got like 3 or 4 events coming up. So fingers crossed they can find something for Jared Gordon and he can get back in there and get another paycheck.
Yeah, plenty of events on the schedule. So hopefully, and you make weight in case something happens. There is let me check this. I know there's at least one other
Yep.
lightweight fight on the card. There's just
Yep.
one. Couldn't remember if there were more, but maybe something that falls out there. You can step in against Bonfim or Sadikov. So good on you, Jared Gordon, for making weight. Really tough scenes for basically you to step off the scale and the fight be announced dead. That the timing there is just quite tough, but hopefully he can get back in there in a few weeks. Hopefully the UFC pays him money, up to their discretion. Hopefully that the Angels will prevail and he will make some money. For us, what it means is, as you said, AK 12 instead of 13. Love that. Probably means a 4:30 start time instead of a 4 p.m. start time, given how these things usually go. But still, I love a 12 fight card. So much better than a 13 fight card. And I will be transparent. I was not particularly, my score did not change with the inclusion or the exclusion of the Jared Gordon versus Ruzabayev fight. So, AK, let's dive right into the main event because, frankly, I think that there are really two fights truly to talk about, and the main event is certainly the big one, as you would expect the main event. Gregory Rodrigues stepping in against Jared Cannonier. Cannonier, bit of a rough patch. He's lost his last two. 2024 was not kind to the Killer Gorilla, whereas Gregory Rodrigues is on a 3-fight winning streak right now, coming off a unanimous decision win over Christian Leroy Duncan back in July. Big step up for Rodrigues, who is not ranked. Jared Cannonier is, if I was a better host, I would have done this before. I'm just going to look at it right now.
Number 7 in UFC. Yeah, number 7 UFC. Number 10. You could just you could go on the rankings Meister. Number 7 in UFC. Number 10 in the rankings that matter, the MMA fighting global ranking.
And Gregory Rodrigues is not ranked in either, so a big opportunity for him to go unranked to, certainly in the way the UFC rankings worked, right into the thick of the top 10. AK, let's start here. Is this do or die for Jared Cannonier?
Oh, I think they like Jared. I don't know what his contract situation is. It's definitely if this were the last fight on his contract, yeah. I mean, you got to win this one. You're very likely not getting re-signed, because I don't know what his salary is. I have to imagine, as far as middleweights go, it's probably upper tier. Not that he's making like millions per fight, but again, as far as, like I said, a guy with his tenure, he's been with the UFC a long time. He's been a top 10 contender for a long time. Probably making quite a bit more than your average contender series signing. Let's put it that way. But again, I don't know if this is his last fight. If this is not his last fight, I do see them still giving him another chance. Again, he's been a reliable headliner for them. I'm just looking at it now. I didn't realize his 5th straight headlining bout. Oh, yeah. Four of those are the Apex, obviously, with fellow Apex, one of those fellow Apex MVP, Sean Strickland, once upon a time. And the other one is in Louisville, which I believe, again, ever since they've gone on the road, I'm pretty sure that card was one of several that broke, at the time, broke their North American Fight Night Gate record. Every time they go on the road, they're breaking that record now, but I'm pretty sure this one did as well. So he's reliable. He's not like a super exciting fighter. He's not what we call an action guy, but for the most part, his fights are fairly eventful, outside of a massive stink bomb with, of course, Israel Adesanya, which that might still be fresh in people's minds, but I've sort of moved on from that. Again, not Mr. Excitement, but not like super boring. Level guy. Great technical, I think fun striker to watch overall. And that's kind of, I think, what we're getting here. So I think even if he loses, I think they'll keep him around. I think they can work something out. So I don't think it's do or die. Is it do or die for him as a contender? Man, I think you have to think so, right? He's never lost 3 straight fights before. So this is only the second time he's lost consecutive fights. The Kyle Borralho and Nasruddin Imavov fights. And those guys are higher ranked than Gregory Rodrigues. So if he were to lose to Rodrigues 3 straight for the first time in his career, turns 41 in next month, turns 41 in March, I don't think we see him contending anymore. He seems content to be a gatekeeper, and that's a good place to be. But as far as being a contender, he needs this to stay alive in that regard, for sure.
Yeah, I think undeniably, if he has any aspirations of fighting for a belt again, he has to win this fight. I think he probably shouldn't even have those aspirations, frankly. He's about to turn 41. But as you pointed out, AK, I don't think that this is the end of Jared Cannonier in the UFC unless he chooses it to be. Like I do think, yes, a 3-fight losing streak is never a positive, but as you pointed out, headlined in 6 of his past 8 fights in the promotion. Basically, since he became a headliner, he has been a big deal. He has either headlined a card or been in the co-main or feature of a pay-per-view. So I think even with the loss here, this is just sort of the traditional, hey, veteran versus. It's weird to think of RoboCop as a rising prospect because he's 32 and he looks like he's 52, but rising contender, a sort of new vanguard of people. And so this is just a let's see where you are. I think Jared Cannonier can certainly fulfill that role quite well. On the other end of things, AK, obviously this is a huge opportunity for RoboCop, right? We talked about it. He can jump right into the top 10. As a win here, how far away does a win put him from a title shot, though, AK? Like, this will move him into number 7 in the UFC rankings. Is he this plus one more from a title fight? Like, how, given how middleweight's shaking out, where can he go from this?
Man, I'm so afraid the top like 5 or 6 of middleweight is going to become like, some other divisions have in the past. This is sort of the cycle that UFC divisions go through now is you get that shakeup of fresh blood, you get some new names, and then you get sort of the solid concrete, well, this is the top 4, 5, 6 guys in the division. And then those guys tend to just keep fighting each other and very rarely fight someone lower. So I worry that RoboCop is going to get blocked out of there. Like, I don't think he's getting Israel Adesanya next. I don't think he's getting Robert Whittaker next. I don't think he's getting Sean Strickland next. I just don't think these guys are going to fight him, even if he beats Gregory Rodrigues. So he's going to have to fight another top 15 guy, very likely. And even that win, depending how things are shaking up at the top of the division, might not get Gregory Rodrigues a top 5 name. It's so hard to break into there. It would help if he could somehow get a finish. If he like knocked out Cannonier within the first 3 rounds, be impressive. Finish his next opponent early. Then you get the UFC talking, then you get the fans talking. That's going to help you a lot, but I don't think he's quite put together the performances yet to merit that kind of consideration. And I would like to see him mix the martial arts. I say this probably every time he fights. He comes from an incredible grappling background. He was known as a grappler outside of his his MMA career, but he has just fallen in love with his striking. He has good natural power. I understand, loves KOing people, but I would really, really like to see him mix it. And this is coming from me, Mr. Keep the martial arts apart. But when you've got those kind of skills, just dip into that well every now and then. So I think he's at least 2 fights away, Jed, to answer your question. I just think it's so hard for him to get one of those big names at the top.
Yeah, that is part of why I find this fight pretty interesting, just how it was created, because this is such a big step up. We all enjoy RoboCop. He's a very fun fighter. This is his first opponent who is ranked. Like he has not even like been fighting ranked dudes or guys who are at the back end. He is coming off the win over Christian Leroy Duncan, who is a guy who's solid but not amazing. Brad Tavares, who once upon a time was ranked, but that was years and years ago. Dennis Tululin, like these are his wins. Not to say that those are bad wins. It is just such a chasm from where he has been to where he is now getting an opportunity against an aging dude. Who could easily just not really have it anymore. And so they are kind of propelling him up quickly. And maybe it's because he's friendly, maybe because people like him. And so then you can throw him in there against a Kyle Braulio or something, if depending on how that shakes out. I am endlessly fascinated on sort of where this goes, if what we think happens will happen. As things currently stand, the FanDuel has Gregory Rodrigues as a minus 230 betting favorite over Jared Cannonier, the comeback plus like 185-ish. AK, how do you see this fight going? Because like, I'll be honest, I do think that this is a winnable fight for Jared Cannonier. Not sure I'm going to pick him, but I do think it is winnable for him.
Damn, 2-1 favorite, Gregory Rodrigues. That's impressive.
Over 2-1 favorite.
Over 2-1 favorite. My goodness. Did that move as far as you know from tracking the bet? Did it start? Was he like closer to like minus 180 or something?
I don't know where it started. When I looked at it, it was slightly less than this, but it has not moved a lot. But hold up, and I can pull.
Did you recommend
pull some line history?
Did you recommend a Cannonier underdog bet on No Bets Board?
No, because I just don't believe I can. I can't ever suggest you bet on a dude who is 41.
Yeah, so
it's just really hard to believe that. It did open a little closer, and money is pretty steadily coming on Rodrigues.
I get it. I think I'm leaning Rodrigues as well. I think my issue is So we all remember the Imavov fight with Cannonier and him. I want to say, let me take a quick glance at those scorecards. I'm pretty sure Imavov was winning anyway. I don't
Oh, he
want
was
to
definitely
misspeak.
winning.
He was definitely winning.
He's
So
definitely.
Imavov was winning anyway. Yes, we get kind of a funky stoppage in the fourth, and then Kabaha, just a very good fight with the Cannonier, but it just beats him, right? And again, you can sort of like look at like when you watch Cannonier fight, you still sort of see the same guy that you've been seeing fight for the last 3 or 4 years. But again, now we're talking about 40-year-old version. Now we're talking about a 41-year-old version of Jared Cannonier. And then all these like blips were like, oh well, if that had gone differently, he wouldn't have lost that fight. If he had done that differently, maybe this blah, blah, blah. And when fighters get older, we start to make these excuses for them and then at some point you just have to realize, oh wait, no, this person is 40, 41, 42, whatever age they are. They're however many fights in their career. There's a reason that they keep making these mistakes. There's a reason that these bad things keep happening to them in fights. At some point, it's just like they cannot turn the corner anymore. They cannot pull that trigger anymore the way they used to. I think that might be where Cannonier is now. What's funny is, like you said, with Rodrigues, is he feels like an old 32. So it's not like, it just doesn't feel like he's this young gunner who is just going to blow past Cannonier. But on paper, that's what it's supposed to be. So that's why I'm so skeptical. I'm skeptical and surprised by the 2-1 line. But again, one guy on a 3-fight winning streak, one guy on a 2-fight losing streak. So I am leaning Rodrigues just because of the age thing. I don't feel great about it. Again, I do really think Cannonier has a chance of grinding out a 5-round decision, but I have to go with the considerably younger fighter here. Again, a guy who can scrap, has good punching power, can certainly hurt Cannonier if he lands. I see. I'll go with RoboCop to take the decision.
Decision is interesting because basically the over-under is set at 2.5. It's a 5-round fight, and it's pick 'em odds. I think Cannonier can win this fight because, as you pointed out, sometimes RoboCop gets a little dumb and just wants to get into a brawl. And Jared Cannonier, certainly, I do believe that RoboCop can hurt and knock out Cannonier. Kyle Baralho also almost finished Cannonier. It's 41. Damage is accumulated. I think his chin is not what it used to be. RoboCop hits hard. If they get into a brawl, RoboCop can win that. But also Jared Cannonier can absolutely win that fight. And so I'm interested to see if RoboCop does just sort of get that little bit of crazy in him and start brawling. And maybe it works out for him anyway, but that certainly opens a door. If he does mixed martial arts, Cannonier has never been a terrific defensive wrestler. And so I think just RoboCop has more ways to win. So I will also pick him. I am definitely going to go with the finish. And I will side with the Angels and say RoboCop does mix the martial arts, AK. He gets some takedowns and uses that world-class jiu-jitsu and submits Jared Cannonier.
What?
That's what I think is going to happen, baby.
Never been submitted. Jared Cannonier, never, zero submission. You think Gregory Rodrigues is going to finally show his sterling jiu-jitsu background and become the first man to submit Jared Cannonier?
He shows his jiu-jitsu sometimes.
He did in
not all the time.
Yes,
but
I can't remember which fight
sometimes he does it. So
and he's
fine.
so clearly good at it too. In the fights where he has used it, you're like, oh yeah, this guy is an amazing grappler. He should do this more.
When he gets you down, it's like, yeah, and frankly, like he took Christian Leroy Duncan down a bunch.
Right. Oh, that's okay.
That's maybe he's starting to show growth and understand he wants multiple things, to bring multiple phases to the game and I think that he just has to understand that the best way for Cannonier to win is for him to go full RoboCop and just throw them hands and see what happens. So I think we're going to see it. I'm going to go with the submission. But AK, we can't dilly nor dally here. We must press on because we don't need to spend 3 hours on this fight card, frankly. We do need to take a little bit of time for the co-main event, a featherweight contest between Calvin Kattar and Yusuf Zalal. And I want to start right here, AK. You are the arbiter of such things. Is this a co-main event or is this a penultimate fight?
My first instinct when I saw this was co-main event. I said co-main event. I think, Calvin Kattar's ranked. Yusuf is on. Yeah, he's ranked. Yusuf he's ranked with us. He's ranked at the UFC. Yusuf is on a winning streak. You could, if you were feeling frisky, you could rank him. Obviously he doesn't have the names, I think, to be in a top 15 of a very deep division. But I'm sure there's people out there who have seen his recent performances, his great second run with the UFC, and are like, yeah,
he had an unbelievable 2024 after coming back to the UFC.
I don't know if he made our fighter of the year. I think he got a vote. I want to say he at least got votes. Probably didn't crack the top 5, but he had to have gotten a vote. I think maybe I voted for him. Yeah, it looked great. He was very young. Yusuf Zalal was very young when he first came to the UFC. I want to say he was 23, maybe 24 years old. Clearly a very talented guy, and got off to a hot start, and probably then got pushed up into fights that he wasn't quite ready for. He went from Peter Barrett to Ilia Topuria in his 4th fight, and he didn't get knocked out, but he didn't win. And then Sungwoo Choi, I think just a little more experience than him at that point. And Sean Woodson, also very tough, I think, experienced featherweight guy. Goes back to the regional scene, and then does the right thing. Takes care of business there, just wipes out guys in the regional scene, gets a second shot in the UFC.
Sir, you left out the Damon Blackshear draw.
Oh, I did. I apologize.
That was the actual.
Yeah. Four winless. And that was a bantamweight. That was a weird. Should not have done that. Should not have dropped down to 130. That was a desperation move right there. Should not have gone down to 135. But he's back at 145. He looks great. This is a co-main event again. Just I think there are maybe even more than the main event, especially if Zalal wins. I mean, you've got a real storyline here of a guy who. It's funny to say because he's not closer to a title shot than Gregory Rodrigues, obviously. Like Gregory, there's just less names in front of him, and the division is not as good. But
his champion isn't actively trying to not defend his title, so there's that.
Jed, please, please, not now, please. You said you want to keep this show short. We can't send you down that road again. For your own health.
Fair point.
But if both guys win on Saturday, obviously depending how they do it, but if both guys win in some vaguely impressive fashion, you're asking me who's more likely to fight for a title, or at least have a chance of winning one. Excuse me, guys. I would lean towards Zalal. I think he's shown such a well-rounded game. Obviously, he's quite a bit younger than Rodrigues. So there's a lot to be gained here. It's a tough fight. Calvin Kattar has played the spoiler before, but I do like how they paired these two up. I think it was the right fight to give Zalal, and I think it's the right fight to give Kattar too at this stage of his career. So co-main event for me, man. Good vibes with this fight.
I agree. I think it is a co-main event. I mean, Calvin Kattar is ranked. Yes, he has lost 3 in a row in 4 of his past 5. That's pretty tough. Even if you kind of hand wave away, that was all to elite opposition. Losing 4 of 5 is a tough scene, but Zalal, unbelievable 2024. He didn't win any of votes in our of the year rankings. He was 3rd team all violence featherweight behind Ilia Topuria and Diego Lopez last year, though, because a truly strong return to form. I think this is a co-main event. Frankly, I think this is the best fight on the entire card. It's the fight I am the most interested in on both ends of the way. And partly I'm interested, AK, because we talked a lot about Yusuf Zalal and his return, and all that's fair. Calvin Kattar is in a very, very precarious and curious position for me because he has lost 4 or 5. He's lost 3 in a row. He is ranked number 10, but at this point, he is really holding on to that win by the skin of his teeth, and there's a lot of leverage being placed on around beating Giga Chikadze that one time. So, I guess the question is pretty simple. Is Calvin Kattar in a similar situation to where we find Jared Cannonier, or does Kattar need this win even more than Cannonier does?
The narratives are eerily similar to the main and co-main. He definitely needs the win more. Like we said, Cannonier trying to avoid a 3-fight losing streak. Kattar already on a 3-fight losing streak. Now the guys that Kattar's lost to, no shame in it. Josh Emmett, really close fight, by the way. Could have scored it for Kattar. So that was the start of it. Knee injury. Arnold Allen, maybe he was going to lose the fight. I don't know. We really didn't get a chance to see. We got a little over a minute of action. And then Aljo, he lost cleanly, but it wasn't like Aljo destroyed him. It was just, pretty clear decision win for Aljo. Aljo's a great grappler. Calvin Kattar, couldn't deal with that rest. It happened. So this almost feels a bit like a Piotr Jan-ish losing streak. It's different. I would say Piotr Jan looked better during that losing streak than Kattar has during this, but again, it's also there's a random freak injury in there as well. And again, the Emmett fight could have been a win. So the other thing that's similar to the main event is that Kattar also celebrates a birthday next month, much like Cannonier. He's not turning 41, but he is turning 37. And at 145 pounds, it hurts to say.
That's the same as being 41 at middleweight, basically.
I'm not saying that. But he is 37 with a lot of mileage. We are in his 32nd pro fight. He's been fighting for, just a quick look at his record here. This is almost year 18 for Calvin Kattar. So age is whatever. Age is relative, right? But in fight years, he is 18 years old. That's not a number that you can shake off very easily, especially when you're dealing with a 28-year-old who looks to be in his prime. So once again, I feel like you have to lean towards youth. And as for, again, Kattar's prospects, if he loses to him, I know the UFC likes him, but this has to be, and again, we don't know the contract situation, much like with Jared Cannonier, but I would say more than Cannonier, even if this isn't the last fight on his contract, I think Kattar's in real danger of a release. And I hope that doesn't happen because, like I said, I think he's a great fighter, very fun to watch, and he's only faced great competition. So how can you knock him for having, a bad stretch of fights here and there? But I mean, this is just the numbers game. And I do wonder if, the bean counters at Endeavor and TKO and all that will just say, well, 4 straight losses, we're doing the math. We just can't, we can't afford to book you for another fight.
Well, certainly the odds makers believe that he is going to be in that position because Yusuf Zalal, a much bigger favorite than Gregory Rodrigues in the main event. Zalal, a minus 480 betting favorite to come back on Kattar, plus 350 per our friends at FanDuel. Wide odds, AK. Do you think they're justified? How do you see this one going down on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm not a great odds maker, but it's like if you're trying to get action, that's kind of what you have to do, right? You have to give again Rodrigues 2-1, and then you got to get 4-1 for Zalal. It's harsh. I'm going to throw a poll up first before I answer. I just want to say just ask people which veteran is more likely to beat the odds. Let's go Jared Cannonier and Calvin Kattar, because I'm curious. People think both. If people think it's just going to be a passing of the torch, because I feel like one of them has to beat the odds, right? I just don't think the booking is ever so neat where we see both of the younger up and comers sort of deliver on what the matchmakers I would guess are expecting. So yes, clearly for the co-main, I'm leaning Zalal. Will he finish Calvin Kattar? That's a tall order. Yusuf's been on a streak of submissions. It's a little deceiving, if you haven't actually watched Zalal's fights, because again, he mixes things up and then eventually gets the finish on the ground. But he does a lot of striking too. Great striker. It's not like he's just going out there and tackling people. I will go Zalal. I'll go Zalal by decision. I don't think he gets the finish, but I think he'll win a convincing decision, and we will be talking about him as a contender, a legit top 15 contender in 2025.
I'm going to swerve here. I do have a bet on Calvin Kattar, not a big one, but the price is high. And I do think that this is a matchup that he can have success in. Zalal, I think, would have the best success getting things to the floor. And Aljo it was so easy for Aljo to get Kattar down that certainly gives me pause. But I do not think Yusuf Zalal is the wrestler grappler that Aljamain Sterling is. I think he will be forced to fight on the feet a little bit more. And Kattar's boxing is still very crisp, very sharp, just because I think he is getting undervalued here because of some of the way his losses read after the fact. The Arnold Allen fight, as you pointed out, was a knee injury. That fight had not really even gotten going that much to know how that really would have played out. The Aljo fight is certainly a bad look, but otherwise, this is a big step back in competition for Kattar. And so I'm going to trust that the veteran is not quite ready to be put out to pasture, because I remember counting him out against Giga Chikadze. I absolutely counted him out against Giga Chikadze. I have learned my lesson about betting against Calvin Kattar at a price like this. So I'll pick Calvin Kattar to win a spirited, fun decision. AK, that takes us to the final sort of grouping, which I have in my outline listed as best of the rest. So Spotlight Series here, AK. We've talked about 2 fights. There are 12 fights on the card. Pick one of the remaining 10 fights. It can be main card. It can be early prelims, whatever you want. Pick the other fight on this card that deserves a little bit more shine than it's getting, that you want to talk about because an interesting fighter, an interesting angle, whatever it may be. Now is the time.
I'm not going to lie. My pick is probably getting the right amount of shine. But it's just a hilarious matchup, and I'm super excited about it. Listen, we're talking middleweight business. I love Rodolfo Vieira and Andre Petroski. Petroski's stepping in for, he wasn't the original opponent. It was, Jacob Malkoun. That was a middleweight matchup. But we're getting a good one here. I Vieira, such a pleasure to watch on the ground. If he gets his fight to the ground, or Petrosky wants to take it there because he's also a grappler, he's a wrestler. I think that's I think that would favor Vieira. I think it's possible. We've seen good jiu-jitsu guys, especially guys who like to fight off their back, get grinded out by wrestlers. It can happen that way. But the other, of course, hilarious result is the grappling nullifies each other, and we get like 15 minutes of cardio kickboxing, which would just be super funny to me. Vieira is like also has shown like the occasional willingness to throw. Like he clearly shouldn't, but he's like a very muscly, strong man. So I do think he does like to throw the occasional haymaker. So him being forced to throw down on the feet with Petrosky, who is also not a great striker, it just has the recipe for an amusing disaster. I will be locked into that fight. I am a sick man. I like middleweight fights, and if neither man is able to implement their actual strengths in there, you're going to get a sweet middleweight matchup.
This is either going to be really fun because they do grapple and it will just be elite fun grappling, or it will be really funny because they don't grapple and this will be as middleweighty a striking contest as you could imagine. So I totally, not what I thought you were going to pick. Totally understand why you chose it. It will be very silly or very good. Maybe even a little bit of both. I guess we'll find out. If I'm going to give a shout to one of these fights, I think the correct answer is Gabriel Bonfim Chaos Williams, just because both of those dudes are usually pretty exciting. Not the one I'm going to talk about, because the fight I am the most interested outside of the main and co-main event is Elijah Smith making his UFC debut against Vince Morales. I talked a little bit about this on BTL yesterday. I am just super high on Elijah Smith as a prospect. He is 22 years old and has all the talent in the entire universe distilled into one bantamweight body. He needs a lot of development. Like, he has a ton of work to do, and honestly would probably be better served not even being in the UFC at this point, just so he could fight like 5 times a year and learn how to fight. But incredibly athletic, sort of knows how to strike a little bit, explosive grappling, like finishes with power. I am very excited about what this kid can be in a few years, and he is getting thrown into a tough fight. Vince Morales is not a terrific bantamweight, but he is a rock solid veteran dude, been around the block. Going to be a tough fight. I'm interested to see how Elijah Smith rises to this sort of challenge. And so that is the fight I am certainly on the undercard, the one I'm the most interested in. And one of the fights I'm frankly more interested in of the whole thing. AK, one last thing to round us out, and then we'll bring
one note on Elijah. I this shouldn't surprise anyone. Only the second generation UFC guy, right? Like this, there's Randy and Ryan.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then only,
and
Gilbert
also Ryan was like kind of nonsense. Like,
and that was,
Ryan got the Bronny James treatment. Like, Ryan got in because his name was that. That is not the case. Like,
if LeBron was also banned from the building, that's would have been the
true.
the Bronny James treatment.
You know what? Fair point.
Because I hope Gilbert will be in Elijah's corner. That's my guess. But yes, Gilbert Smith, didn't have the legacy of Randy Couture, no, but still was a former UFC fighter, and yeah, apparently him. And it's weird. I would have thought in my mind, I was trying to think, like, has there really been no other son or daughter of a UFC fighter? We know Bellamir is out there, obviously, but we don't know if she's ever going to want to fight in the UFC.
The other big
one
never
is
want AJ McKee, obviously, but
yes,
that's it's not in the UFC at this point. So
his dad almost never fought in the UFC. It took him it took him
a long time
to get there. Wow, it is hard. It's hard to get in the UFC. It's hard to have a kid to get in there.
Unless you're a UFC Hall of Famer, and then your son can kind of get in there. Because like even though you were banned, and it's like, will he be allowed to corner his own son? I don't know. It's weird. Totally forgot that Ryan Couture existed, because that's how meaningful his UFC career run was. But Elijah Smith following in strong footsteps, and I'm pretty excited to see it. AK, we got one last thing to talk about before we bring Casey Leiden in and we get to the peeps for a little bit. And it's very simply put, bonuses. Who's getting them? 4 go out. Usually it's fight of the night and 2 performance bonuses. Sometimes it's 4 performance bonuses. You may choose however you think it's going to unfold. Who is walking away with that sweet, sweet 50K on Saturday evening?
I'm so hopeful we get a fight of the night of the Kill Main event. It's the obvious pick. Calvin Kattar has like 6 fight of the nights in his career or something, so he just invites those. And I hope he brings out the best in Zalal. Helps him win or lose. I hope Zalal levels up from this fight, and it could be in a fight of the night loss, and that would, and that's not going to hold Zalal back too far. So I'll go with the obvious pick, co-main event for fight of the night. Bonuses, I want to say Edmund because I just want to believe he's going to stay on his feet and KO Dylan Budka, but I don't believe that's going to happen at all. So I will go with Chaos Williams. I think so. I'll pick him to beat Gabriel Bonfim. And I'll go with, we just don't have a lot of great pickings here. Let's go with your boy Elijah Smith. Let's go with your boy. I like Vince Morales.
I love that.
I like Vince Morales a lot. I really do. And I don't want to say that he's being brought in to just like roll over for Elijah, because I don't think that's the case. I actually think this is a pretty tough test for Elijah. But you said you're high on him. I hear good things. It's going to be a great story for the second generation fighter to have a spectacular debut. We've seen a few fighters have spectacular debuts and win bonuses this year. Maybe Elijah can join them, so I'll go with that. Go Elijah Smith. And who else did I say for finish bonus? What else did I say? I've already forgotten.
One of the bomb. Oh, no, Chaos
Gabriel.
Williams.
Oh, Chaos Williams, excuse me. Chaos Williams, Elijah Smith, and then fight of the night, Cater and Zalal.
Chaos Williams is an underdog to Gabriel Bonfim, so if you're with AK on that, you can get a little scratch going there. AK is 100% correct, 95% correct about the Calvin Kattar use of law. Kattar only has 5 fight of the nights. Way to give him 6. You're supposed to be a professional, AK.
It'll be 6 after Saturday.
It will be 6 after Saturday. I think that is the best bet for a fight of the night, and I like it a lot, so I am on board with that. I am picking Gregory Rodrigues to finish Jared Cannonier in the main event, so I will also give him a performance bonus for that. They tend to kind of favor things like that, particularly if he's the first guy to ever submit Jared Cannonier, probably get a little extra. And then the last one is tough. I'll just out of desperation and trying to speak something good into existence, I'm going to say Walter Walker, because Dontel Mays, that fight has a real heavyweighty chance to be the worst thing we've ever seen unless Walter Walker finishes it early. So I'm going to hope that he can find a way to do it, because otherwise it is going to be a tough 15 minutes for us for the second bout of the afternoon.
You have to be taking the over on that one. You cannot be saying this with confidence.
I have no over-unders. I am just hoping. I'm trying to will something good into existence because Dontel Mays, I don't understand cutting Jairzinho Rosenstrike in general. You should cut Dontel Mays because he's never been in a fun fight. He is a smoke break waiting to happen. So
you got TKO'd by Arlovsky? No. What?
I don't remember that happening.
This is a Wikipedia edit, right? This is like someone edited it just before I read it, right? Like this isn't real. No,
he TKO'd Arlovsky.
He TKO. Oh my god. Okay, that's right. I was like, I
was just saying.
Okay, yes, I apologize. This is me. Just me not being able to read. I was like, I think I would have remembered. I would have remembered if Arlovsky had TKO'd anyone in the last 6 years. I think that would have been.
Yeah, that's not what Andre has done in the back end of his career. Yeah, just a tough scene when you're a heavyweight and most of your fights go to decision, not where you want to be. So, hoping to speak that into existence. Casey, hop on in here. Let's see the status of your sleeves. Oh, no sleeves, no mercy. EK sliding right there. Best producer in the game, baddest stash, Mr. 3024. Casey, before we get to the peeps, get your questions in now. We will answer a few. Casey, before we get to them, what are your thoughts this weekend? Anything that we left out that you really want to talk about? Anything that you just have an opinion that begs to be said?
It's an Apex card. I think this is kind of run of the mill. I don't think it's a bad Apex card or a good Apex card. There's fights on it. I like.
Right. Perfectly average Apex card.
I think you said it well in the BTL. If you have friends in town, you want to go maybe visit a new restaurant, open, a small business in your community, maybe Saturday night's the night. But if you want to stay home, save a few bucks, this is perfectly fine. Good 6 hours of entertainment, I feel.
That is honestly the older I get, the more I've done this. It really is just breaking cards down by family time. We're just okay, Like if you want to take your significant other out for Valentine's tomorrow, you should do that. You should not do that because of this fight card. And so like if you have nothing else to do, you don't, I like if you're like me and you're alone and don't have a Valentine for you, then sit at home and watch fights. There's nothing wrong with that either. But yeah, very much an apple picking card hard for this one.
I mean, I personally, I actually do like the card because there's just certain fighters I feel like I've kind of followed throughout their career. But I get it in the grand scheme of MMA rankings and title contenders. Not too much to offer, but I still think it's a fine card. Also, I want to give a little respect to Ryan Couture. He earned his UFC spot, young man. He was 6-1 coming out of Strikeforce off of the victory over KJ Noons. So he had earned a spot in the UFC. I'm just saying, especially by today's standards.
By today's standards, sure. That's not what was happening in 2012. He won a splitty over KJ Noons. He got it because they bought Strikeforce and his name was Couture. And then promptly lost.
Yeah, but he earned his spot. That's all I'm saying. He earned
by
his spot.
Today's standards, Hunter he earned his spot certainly as much as Elijah Smith has earned his spot, right? Like
that's all I'm saying.
But
I still give a little respect to Ryan
standards
Couture.
of the day.
I felt he's off doing his thing. I feel he's just catching strays. So I'm here for him. That's all.
I just never got the feeling that Ryan Couture liked fighting. Like he just did it because his dad did it.
What you know what? That's incredibly impressive that you do not like this, and yet you had a relatively good professional mixed martial arts career.
Yeah.
So not even like
10 fights or whatever. You fought in Bellator for 100 times.
Yeah.
Good genes. Good quality fighting genes in him. All right, let's go to the peeps. We are not going to answer that many questions unless they're just a run of super chats because we don't need to be here for over an hour. Not for Apple Picking Card 1.0 this year. From Ryan Leaf. Wow, got Ryan Leaf.
Former NFL superstar, I would say. Ryan Leaf.
I mean, one of the most infamous NFL players of all time, but he's still got that NFL money because he is super chatting us $2 to say, "Are you the UFC Apex? Because I'll never leave you."
Very good.
Honestly,
very good.
That's a pretty good one, Ryan Leaf.
Very good.
Behind the curtain, I spent all this week. I didn't mention it in any of our ed meetings because I didn't have an idea, but I was like, I got to find a way to make like a Valentine's themed thing to write about this week. And I simply couldn't come up with anything that didn't like kind of suck or was super weird to a point that I didn't think we'd do it. And the last ditch effort was, okay, we could just send out like some Valentines on social. Right. And so I hit up Jose last night and then started brainstorming in one of our Slack channels. And you can go check the ones we sent out, which I think are good. The ones that we couldn't send out for editorial reasons were way better.
Yeah, way more.
Well, like we can't infuriate like as a company a lot of individuals and promotions, but we had some gold there. But didn't even think of that one. That's solid, Ryan Leaf.
Thank you, Ryan Leaf, and happy trails in your NFL career. You played in the NFL. He was a footballer, a football player.
He was a footballer, correct?
He was
a very high draft
footballer.
Pick. A very high draft pick once upon a time.
What was his infamy for?
He was the number 2 pick of the NFL draft that year and was widely viewed as one of the biggest busts in the history of the sport.
Didn't work out.
Okay. Well, congratulations, Ryan Leaf. That's awesome.
He made some money.
I mean, when you're still the number 2 overall pick in 1998, that's pretty solid. But he went 1 pick behind Peyton Manning. Was pretty tough.
I've heard of him. He's in like Super Bowl commercials. I think that's what he's known for. He's in just commercials.
Yeah,
he's a commercial guy. He's a spokesman.
When your entire career is being compared to one of the 7, if not better, greatest quarterbacks ever, it's tough scenes.
All right. Thank you, Ryan Leaf. What we got?
I wonder what Ryan Leaf's doing right now. While we're answering questions, we're going to look and figure this out.
Don't look up his social media. You'll probably find something problematic. We don't want to know. We just...
All right. Joseph Boza.
Joseph Boza says, AK has Jacqueline Cavalcante in his draft league. How does he like her chances
versus
Julia Avila? A lot. I like her chances a lot. That's why I picked her.
Really good.
I know I've said that about a lot of fighters in this card, but I mean, I like a lot of fighters in this card, even fighters I picked against, right? Like some of these fighters are people I've interviewed or the site has interviewed, and just generally seem like okay, cool people who have worked hard, and we criticize these cards sometimes, but they got to fill them up, and these people earn their spot. It's been really tough for Julia Avila over the years too, because not tough. I just say, she took some time off to start a family, so good for her, great. And then she came back.
She created a human being.
She created a human being, pretty good. Yeah, so good, so great times there. I mean, no, I'm sure that wasn't bad. But then she came back, loses to Misha Tate, and then suffers an injury. So maybe more recently, the times have been a bit tougher. She's always has a great attitude about things, but I just feel like, even though women's bantamweight is essentially the equivalent of be a little bit older in this division, it's not going to hold you too far back. There's just such a big gap between her and Cavalcanti, and I actually think Cavalcanti is really good. I actually think Cavalcanti can be this isn't saying a lot, I know, but can be a title contender at 135 pounds. It's not a deep pool, but I do like her. She came in with a little bit of hype. Maybe didn't quite live up to it, I think, in her first fight, but I think she's hitting her stride, right? She's still fairly new, fairly young, so we haven't seen the best version of her. I think we'll see a good enough version to beat Julia Avila. Again, it's just really tough to be as inactive as Avila has been, and again, just pushing kind of past close to 37 years old. So yeah, I feel very comfortable. I'll still say decision though. I don't think she's gonna take her out in a round. It's certainly possible that Cavalcanti gets a submission early on, but I think this goes to a decision.
I am very much with AK. I don't think she's going to get a finish, but I think this is well set up for success. Cavalcanti is one of the very few bright spots at women's bantamweight right now, and this should be set up. Also, guys, I just went down a deep dive on Ryan Leaf, and there's a lot of bad, and it appears that maybe he's turned his life around a little bit. After leaving the NFL, he got arrested several times for burglary, spent some time in jail, got a domestic abuse charge thrown his way, but apparently he has since gotten his life in a better spot and works for drug and homelessness outreach programs, and is calling games of football for the CW for Pac-12. So I don't know. I hope that the money you gave us was NFL money or CW money and not burglary money, Ryan Leaf, but I hope that your life is going well, because we don't want your burglary money if that's what it is. I mean, we'll take it, but
we don't want it, but we'll take it, but we don't want it.
We don't want your crime money. But I hope things are going better for you, Ryan Leaf, based on that quick wiki dive I just took down your path.
All right. Actually, pretty short questions. So, actually, I want to talk to Mr. 51st State here, AK, about this.
AK is a more popular export than Drake. I mean, anyone Canada is more popular export than Drake right now.
What's the Drake filming up there? Because I live down the street from Compton. Bro, Compton's only 5 miles this way. So
bro, it's like Ireland. It's like Ireland. It's like Ireland and Conor McGregor. It's like we're just like, no, we don't claim him anymore. It's like, I shouldn't say that. There is a large segment of our population for sure, especially in Toronto, that just still loves Drake, idolizes Drake, but it's definitely less.
Really?
It's almost nothing you have to hide it, but it used to be during the peak of Drake. It was constantly in your face how much people in the city loves Drake. People are just shouting it from taxi cabs, I love Drake, and I think people still do now, but they're a little we don't need to talk about it all the time. We keep it on the down low. So yeah, even up here, even in the Great White North, his reputation is taking quite a hit. Listen, we're banging that not like us, just like anybody else, man. It's everywhere. I would say it still is. The song's still everywhere.
Catchy as hell.
Yeah, man. I might be more popular than him, but again, most Canadians are right now. It's bad time. Bad time. I mean, I say bad time to be Drake, who's very rich and very successful. But I mean, as far as reputation goes, and the blow to his ego, can't be feeling good.
I mean, it's a pretty bad time to have a stadium full of people scream that you're a pedo while your ex-girlfriend cripples. That's a pretty tough scene for any human being.
But he's suing him.
That's definitely going to make it better.
That's how you win. Yeah.
Well, Kendrick didn't say it. I mean, he has to sue all 50,000 people in the crowd. I mean,
also and that's not 50,000 people because they're at the Super Bowl where like the minimum ticket price is like $100,000 or something insane. That is just the richest human being collective. Just being like A minor.
And they had to go after guys like Casey too, who were probably saying it at home. Casey and Esther, I know you guys were watching. You just shouted it at home 100%. For no reason.
Dude,
all of it is unbelievable.
I was cackling. I was yelling during the whole performance. It was like, this is amazing. I had so much. I watched the performance three times. I watched it 3 times. It's back to back, and then I watched it the next day. I was like, this is in all the clips. It was just. Apparently, there was a football game on each end of the halftime show. I'm not sure.
Barely.
Rumors.
Really wasn't much of one. There was an ass beating. There was a publicly televised ass beating broken up by a concert. Not much of a football game. I love it because, AK, you may be the prince of positivity. I am a well-known hater of things and people, and Kendrick has inspired me to be a better hater. I haven't hated Michael Chandler enough, really. And that is my new resolution for this year is to be a better hater because there's so much better of a way to do it than I've been going about it. I am minor league hater compared to the great Kendrick.
Yes. Great.
Anything else we got?
One last super chat before we get out of here.
Terrific. Lazy Bed. Roses are red, violets are blue. When you leave, I'll miss you.
Oh.
That's terrific. Well done.
Perfection.
That's how you spend your $2, Ryan Leaf. But really, Ryan Leaf, I hope you're doing well because that was a sad trip down Wiki. It was like, oh, your life really can be ruined by being considered the biggest bust in NFL history. That's unfortunate. Anyway, y'all know the deal at this point in time. Preview show's done. Post show's coming tomorrow, same time as usual, right after the fights happen. Pre-fight Q&A, all your live coverage. So if you are apple picking tomorrow, going out with friends, family, whatever you're doing, you can keep it locked in at MMAfighting.com. Great website. We will give you all the best highlights, all the things you need to know. The next one will be coming at you on Monday with AK and Mike Heck. And then it's on to UFC Seattle, even though that card is like half standing at this point with how many fights have fallen off in the past 12 hours. So thanks for tuning in, y'all, and stick with us all weekend. Love you.
Bye, AK. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day, too.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Forgot that it's sort of a holiday.
Yeah. Go to jiu-jitsu and get some snuggling in.
Yay, snuggling.